What's going on, everybody? I'm Scott Moss, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about how I transitioned over from a software engineer in the Bay to a startup founder and back to a software engineer. It's a good story, so listen up. So in 2015, I was working at a startup in the Bay, and on the side, I was developing curriculum for courses that I wanted to teach. I was also working on open source. I was kind of doing everything. Fast forward to 2016, I decided this is what I wanted to do full time, and the company I was working for also decided that they didn't want me there either, so it was over. I was like, well, I've been working on this thing on the side, I might as well take it full time, and that's where things started kind of popping off for me. Eventually, I actually connected with some friends who had a startup in San Francisco where they paid me and my friend to basically help them build out an app. They basically paid us both $10K each to work on a pretty complicated, interesting app. It was a pretty dope thing. At the same time, we had put some fillers out there for some of the open source that we worked at. My friend at the time was the creator of a very popular library that a lot of big companies use. One of those companies actually reached out to us and was like, yo, we really need some help with this open source that we're using from you guys. Like, it's in beta. You don't have any good documentation. We need to scale it for a couple million users. How do we do it? And because you created it, can we hire you? So we were like, okay, yeah, this seems like it could be pretty dope. So we met up with the company. We did an initial contract for like $50K for me and my friend to come help them and just consult with architecture and things like that. But I decided that we were going to do more than that. I realized that this was a bigger problem than what they thought. I decided to not sign on that deal and just kind of think about it for the next week. I just researched everything about that company, from the technologies they were using, the product, how they make money, the team size, who knew what on the team, like everything, to really just identify the problems that they were having. So once I was able to do that, I really realized we were way more valuable to them, and there were bigger problems that I don't think that they were aware of that we could have also solved. So I went back to the company and negotiated a $2 million contract. But instead of just me and my friend, we had about 6 other people on the team. That's when we basically created a company to go work for this other company on a consulting basis. The company was very great with us. It was a good client. They took care of a lot of things for us, like living expenses and travel and different things like that. It was pretty amazing, and it was for a 2-year engagement. A year into that, things started to get a little different. We didn't really like the corporate culture. The culture is a little different from what we're used to in the Bay Area, where it's very fast and candid and open. And it was really starting to get to us. So we started looking for the next thing. I mean, we basically created a consulting company, and we had other people that I've hired that were working at other companies around the world that were getting paid too. But it just all happened. We were not prepared for it. This is the first time I ran a company that well. Our finances were jacked up. So at the end of the day, we decided to part ways with that contract, but not before finishing what we had to finish way earlier than we were going to do. And we just thought that it would be better if we just parted ways. And then the next thing from there was like, okay, well, we could all go back and get jobs, which, it's not that big of a deal at this point. We're really skilled. We have a big network. We can probably go get $200,000 salary somewhere, but we didn't want to go get jobs. We really wanted to challenge ourselves a little more and do something a little different. And while we were working with these companies, we identified a very common problem that all of them had. So we decided to build some software around that and sell that. So a SaaS company, software as a service. So we built out an early prototype. We launched a website. Tons of people signed up for it. Now we have software that makes money while we sleep, and we can scale it. It'll be much better. And then we decided, okay, this is getting a little more serious. This is actually a big deal. So we applied to go to YC, or Y Combinator. We got the email saying that we got accepted to do an interview. So we prepped for the interview, which was really tough for me, my brother, and my friend, who were the founders. All of us are engineers. I remember just sitting in my house going through the practice questions that we found online, like grilling each other. It was pretty intense. It was pretty fun, but I'm glad we did that, because when we went to do the interview, we actually did well, apparently, because we got in. It's probably one of the happiest moments of my professional life, actually of my life in general. It felt really good just to be validated, to be accepted into such a prestigious program. We took what we learned from YC, we got the network, we raised some money. We felt like we were doing all the right things, but then you actually have to run the business. You actually have to make money, and the reality sits in. And you realize that this is really hard to do. It is really hard to do. It's one thing to build an app and have some technology that works, but it's another thing to have a successful company that's making money. So at the end of 2020, we decided that it was best for us to actually just shut down the company with the money that we had left versus going forward to try to prove this out any further and potentially raising more money. And because of that, I really had to figure out what I wanted to do next. When I started thinking about my family and all the time that I've been putting into the companies I've been running for the last 4 or 5 years, I realized I missed out on so much of what has been happening with my family. I think back and it's just a blur. These events that should have meant everything to me, I can barely remember because I'm just working all the time. While you're working, it really doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, but again, retrospectively looking back, I regret it. I'll never get that time back. And for once, I decided I wasn't gonna put myself first and just like, all right, I'm gonna do this. This is what's gonna work. And I had to put my family first. And for that, I decided that I was gonna go take a job, but not just any job. After working at a startup, after running your own startup, some things that I just could not sacrifice was impact. The work that I was doing had to impact a lot of people, had to solve some problems that a lot of people were having. The other thing is I had to be interested in a product, preferably something that I use, some type of consumer product. And then the last thing was just kind of the culture. After being your own boss for so long, it's kind of hard to go back to a culture where it's very political and everything's top down. There's middle managers everywhere and you're just being told what to do. I knew finding a job was going to be tough, but I was able to find one and I love it. Yes, I started a startup. Yes, we didn't succeed at what we wanted to do, but ultimately I did succeed because I learned a lot. Like I learned what not to do, and I definitely learned some things that worked that I'll probably applying in the future if I decide to do this again. I've definitely grown as an engineer, as an entrepreneur, and I'm excited for the future. That whole 4 years was pretty amazing. I mean, who else can say that they raised some money, ran $1 million company, hired some fantastic employees, made some great friends, contributed and worked with some of the most compelling startups out there and formed these bonds and just in general had a lot of fun. And it's up to you just to figure out, if you want to take the risk and go after this or you want to go after that, because everything is a risk. So yeah, that's my story of how I am here. So if you found that helpful in any way, inspiring or anything, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel where I'm going to be talking more about my experience in tech and some of the things that I've done, and also just having more videos on how to break into tech, different roles you can do, different salaries, different companies that are hiring, how you can take advantage of this industry to really build the life that you want. Until then, I will catch you next time. Peace.